Good morning.
Everybody knows, and there are all kinds of studies that prove, that well-managed companies with engaged employees increase EBITDA. They make more money because they're happier and they're more productive. We all know this, right? Show of hands. Good, okay, you're all awake, good. So I ask you then, if we know this, why is it so darn hard to make a buck? Why is it so difficult to actually do the right things and keep the right people? Because the statistics show over and over and over again that we're not doing it correctly.
Today we're going to be showing you how to go about looking for that 4.0 leadership.
Thank you. So we all recognize the Bell model. If we're in HR, show of hand, who's in HR? In the back of the room, can you hear me, or are you just not in HR? There we go, okay, good. So we all know that we don't want the people on the far left, the 10%ers, the non-performers, we want them to be with our competitors, right? We don't actually want them. What we generally end up with is the below performers, the non-performers, we send them somewhere else, and we're looking for the above average performers. That's what most people are looking for. And advertising and some agencies will get you about 70% of all the people. But the people that we really want are over here. These are the 4.0 leaders. These are the people that everybody wants. These are the people that add extreme value. But the people that you're looking for, they're not looking for you. They already have jobs. They already have great jobs. So that's the irony. That's the recruiter's paradigm in Industry 4.0. The people that you're looking for are not looking for you because they already have great jobs.
Now, it's really important to keep in mind that you might have to go outside your immediate environment to find these types of leaders. And what we mean by that is you might have to go globally in search of high-performance leaders.
This is a picture of a tiger. He's on the Serengeti somewhere in Africa. What you can't see is the gazelle that was also in the picture. Because in the morning, on the Serengeti, every morning, a tiger gets up. And the tiger must run faster than the gazelle. Because if the gazelle runs faster than the tiger doesn't eat. Well, the tiger won. This is a lot like HR today. We're all out recruiting the best and the brightest. We're doing our best. And they come in, and we've got them, but maybe they don't stay. Have you ever experienced that? You ever gone out and hired, I can see the shakes of the heads, ever gone out and hired incredible people, and for some reason they stayed, 6 months, maybe a year, and then they left? Well, that's what we're going to stop today.
So today we're going to be showing you how to create real and significant value for your organizations, and we're going to be showing you how to do this using a very specific system that we've developed in executive search.
So, are you ready? Are you ready to become, as we say in North America, recruiting rock stars? Are you ready to recruit the best people in the world that money alone can't buy? Because money doesn't motivate the best. So right about now, you're probably thinking, who are these people? Well, this is our resume. And the only thing that's important on that screen is that. The stick rate at 99.54%. Anita and I have been partners now we've been married for 37 years. We've been business partners for almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years next year. We've done 1,099 projects. We have a 1-year guarantee. We hire someone, an executive or a middle manager. If they don't stick for a year, we got to do it all over again. Okay? That's the process we're going to talk about. Because when you do a project the first time, it's difficult enough. You don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to have to do it again, especially if you're in our business as recruiters. So that's the only number that matters. And the 99.54 represents, we've done 1,099 searches. We've had to replace 5 people in 30 years. 5 people. Oh, and the only other thing that matters is that book there. That is our book, Hiring Greatness, that has been translated into Chinese. The Chinese actually bought the book and bought the rights for the book 3 weeks before it came out in English. It's just been published about a month ago. And the Chinese have taken it to the market because they understand the process that we use, and they're going to use it. So if you don't feel like the tiger today, if you feel like the antelope, there's a good reason. The Chinese are coming after all of your people as well. The Chinese promote the book in China as a crossover between Jim Collins' Good to Great and Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And believe me, you are in a war for talent. It will not get any easier, and it won't get any shorter. It won't end anytime soon, and it'll end badly for anyone that doesn't understand, yes, their people really are their most important asset, and as Ron showed, and they show it every single day, because people leave every day and decide every morning whether or not they're coming back. One sec. So this is the agenda. This is what recruiters do all day long. This is as simple as it gets. We understand, we package, we sell, we assess, we buy, and we nurture. 6 steps. Now.
So part of our system, go to the next slide. Next. We have developed this system that has 6 stages and 14 steps. In your goodie bags, your loot bags that you have with you, everybody has a pamphlet like this.
Everybody gets 30 seconds to bend over, open their bag, pull out their thing, because you're going to follow with us.
So if
there
you
are
want
skill testing questions.
So if you want to be able to follow the system, open it up to the middle page, and you have it right here. Now we specifically printed these out for you in a paper that's thick enough so that you can put these on your bulletin boards or hang them in your office when you're looking for somebody on the executive level for your company. Whether it be you or somebody else, even if you hire another search company to do this, these are the steps that they should be following. Today's presentation, we're going to go through each one of these steps in the time that's allotted to give you a general idea of what to do.
You noticed that she looked at me when she said that, right? That's you got to be quiet and you got to speak faster, David.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody have it?
Everybody got their sheet? Are you happy? Oh, well, okay. So the first step is, stage 1 is the needs analysis. What normally happens when you do a search, whether you're an internal recruiter or whether you're a recruiter that's brought in from the outside as a consultant, is they normally give you the job description and they say, go find one of these, whatever this is, a CEO, a vice president of sales, of marketing, or director of IT, or whatever. They give you the job description because that's the job description the last guy had or the last person had. So we're going to do that again, right? No, we're not going to do that again. What we're going to do is a needs analysis. But before we get to the needs analysis, I want to talk to you about what the fundamental foundation of recruiting is all about. And it's not what you think. And, you know, Ron sort of gives me a hard time every now and then because I'm a bit of a tree hugger when I come to this. But here's the 3 fundamental things you have to understand if you want to hire Industry 4.0 leaders who will turn around your organization. You start with the head. Sorry, you start with the heart. And what do I mean by that? I mean, the people that you're looking for who aren't looking for you, when you call them up, most of them will just hang up because they don't know anything about you. You have to connect with them. So when I talk about the heart, what I mean is the best people won't come to your company because of money. They won't. They got a job, they got lots of money, and if they go to leave, their employer will just throw more money at them. So you have to connect with them. You have to connect with their heart. You have to get them to connect with your cause. Am I standing incorrectly here? You have to get them to connect with your cause. So heart. And once you've got them by the heart, I'll try over here. Think it's this thing? Oh, that was too easy. Thank you, Joseph. He's next, and much smarter, obviously. So you have to connect with their heart. And once you've connected with their heart, the really smart people are going to want to understand what it is about the business that's compelling. So you need to connect with their head, heart and head. And once you explain all the parameters of the business and what the challenges are and show them that you understand the challenges and explain it to them really well, then you have to connect with the feet. And by feet, I mean you have to tell them in your organization how things actually get done.
So just to add a little bit to this, we're linking this with what Ron was speaking about, the company culture and the new company cultures that are out now, the ones that are succeeding with the 4.0 leadership. This is what we're talking about. This all comes together.
Okay, stage one is the needs analysis. Understanding the presenting needs. As I said, most organizations, when you walk in, they just give you the job description and say, go get me another one of these. You read it, someone's read it, or someone's written it, you don't necessarily understand it all, and you go out and find that person. Instead, the next time this happens, is you should do three things. I'm going to put this in my wallet and put it in my... You should go in and first do a skills gap analysis. Everybody know what a skills gap analysis is? Okay, but it's not just a skills gap analysis of the role. We'll talk about that in a second. It's a skills gap analysis of who else is in the organization at the executive level. And if the organization is at point A and it wants to go to point B, well, do they actually have all the skills to get there? Because there's no point going out and hiring a new VP of sales or a CEO to go from A to B if you're missing 5 things that no one in the organization has. So the skills gap analysis is not just about the role, it's about all of the people that you're not replacing. Are all of the skills there? You have to take that into account. And you have to take it into account in the beginning because a really smart candidate is going to interview you. And they're going to look to see if you actually have the skills that you need to go from A to Z. And if they find out you don't, they're gone. So you do the skills gap analysis first. Then you do a needs analysis. And we all know how to do a needs analysis. It's a deep dive into the actual functional position and the role. And then after you've done a skills gap analysis and a needs analysis, then you write the job description. And only after you've done the first two do you actually sit down and write the job description. And it may not actually look anything like the one you've just been handed. And that could be a very good thing. I take it out of my pocket, I click.
Another thing that's really important to do is a SWOT analysis. Are people familiar with that? Yes? So, good. So really you have to look at this for the company, and this is more of a strategic view of the company to be able to explain it properly to your prospective candidates. You have to look at the strengths of your companies, your weaknesses, the opportunities that are arising, and also the threats. These, in today's economy, in today's business world, these are things that happen fast and furiously, and they have to be brought up within the company so that you can lay out your strategic plan long term. There are so many companies now that will hire executives, will go through tons of money, spending tons of money to be able to complete their searches, and they have never bothered to do a SWOT analysis. They have no strategic long-term plans for their company. So they plan for the next 2-3 years. This is where they want to be. And then after that, I don't know, I guess we'll make up the plan as we go. It doesn't work well that way.
So we're in Brasov. Are you familiar with Uber? Do you think Uber did a good job doing their SWOT analysis? Because there are now competitors to Uber, right? Right here in Brasov and all across North America. I mean, Uber, when they disrupted the whole industry, thought that was it. We're the disruptors. Well, now the disruptors are getting disrupted. This is a pattern that will continue for the next couple of generations. So we're in step 2, and you're not finished yet, and you're already tired, right? Because your HR brain is now running on maximum. The last 2 steps you do before you're finished step 1, which is the understanding of the organization and the understanding of the presenting needs, is you have to choose a search committee. And by a search committee, if you're looking for a CEO, or let's say we're going to look for a VP of marketing during the whole talk, all right? So you need a new VP of marketing. Well, who should be doing the interviewing? Well, it's a search committee. And the search committee will be comprised of 3 to 5 people who are all around the board table, who are at a similar level, and the CEO, But you choose them ahead of time. And they know that they're on the search committee. And they're going to be told what to do fairly shortly. They don't know that yet. But you're going to tell them what to do. And from that group, you choose one person who's going to be the search chair. And you choose one person who can be unbiased and make sure that they actually, all the rest of the search committee, hire the best person for the job, not the most popular, not the one that Susie and George, go golfing with, but the best person for the job, and that's the search chair. What you end up with after you finish doing stage one is what you end up with is a very deep understanding of the organization and the actual need. So you go deep into the organization, get all that information before you go out looking for your next executive or your next executive level hire. And that's unusual because most people get the job description and they're out the same day.
Very often, this is something that recruiters or personnel agencies or yourselves in HR don't quite get to that level. They don't take or they're never given the opportunity to take the time to really understand what that role is about and everything that's implied with it. When you're hiring a C-level executive, somebody at the top level, you need to really understand what your company is all about, where they're going, what the issues are, and what the dynamics are of that position. So this is a really important step to follow right at the beginning.
Now, I'll admit, most companies that I work with, the HR director or the HR VP, have never done this. And in fact, most of them would never dare to ask their CEO a question or even challenge their senior executives about what it is they're really looking for. And so I bring them with me. They sit in all the meetings with me, the HR director, the HR VP at the organization. And the reason we do this is because I want them to see the look on the face of the CEO or the president or one of the senior executives when you ask them a question that they can't answer. Because it's important that you recognize that they don't know all the answers, and you see afterwards how they treat you. They're not mad at you. They're not upset that you asked them a question that they couldn't answer. They're impressed that you asked them a question that they really have to think about, and they might have to go back and get more information. So that's why we always bring them along with us. So the next thing we're going to do is we got all this information, we got a good understanding of the role. Now we're going to go out. We're going to go out and find the best people in the world. But before we do that, we're going to do a couple of steps, and they're rather important. Most people go out looking for someone with a job description. It's a page or 2 pages, or they advertise on Monster or one of these things. What you need to do, really, when you're going after senior people, especially change agents that are Industry 4.0 people, is you need to put together a 3 to 5, sometimes even a 7-page document that talks about the mission, the vision, the organization, what their values are, what their beliefs are, how the individual will know when they're reading this thing. We'll get to why they're going to read it in a second. When they're reading this document, it has to speak to them. It has to show them their destiny in your company. It's not that difficult to do. It's rather easy. It takes a bit of time.
The next step is what we call a confidential candidate brief. This document that we prepare is basically a questionnaire that is given out to prospective candidates beforehand, because almost always the candidates that we approach, that we find, usually don't have a resume ready, and it takes them a long time to put together a resume. By sending them this candidate brief, this confidential candidate brief, it describes the opportunity briefly in it, because they already have the other document, but at the same time, it asks very specific questions that we want to find out. It's a screening tool at the same time as being a tool that looks at their experience and what they can bring to the table. So we ask them to fill out this document, and they send it back to us. This is all happening before we call them in for an interview.
Correct. I mean, most people, honest to God, most people would rather have a wisdom tooth pulled than sit down and write a resume. I mean, that's a fact. And the fact that you're going after people who aren't looking for a job, just try and convince someone who's got a job and a great job that they should sit down and write a resume for you because you've got an even better opportunity for them. Doesn't happen. So take all the pain out of it by doing this. You send them the confidential candidate brief Anita was talking about. They answer like 10 questions. And by answering those 10 questions, they tell us exactly who they are and why they're qualified for the job. So the next thing we do is we actually prepare all the interview questions. Before we even start going out looking for someone, before we send out any information, and the interview questions are designed in 5 different phases, and we'll get to that in a second, well, about 5 minutes. And they're all around the 5 categories and the 28 core attributes that we look for. So we look for character, intellect, business intelligence, leadership, and emotional intelligence, because nothing else matters. We already know before we go out to talk to someone that they're doing the job and they're qualified. What we're looking for is, do they fit? Do they fit our culture, the culture of the organization that we're doing the work for?
And part of these questions, the interview questions, is that we are always, as we're composing these questions and putting them together, we're checking back and forth with the chair, the search chair, to make sure that we're still on track of what they're looking for. So we don't go out with one blind questionnaire blank questionnaire that would apply to everyone and anyone. We're really tailoring this questionnaire again to this position, and we're checking back and forth with the search chair to make sure that it's right.
And that's a really good point, and it's worth emphasizing. Every single one of these confidential candidate briefs has to be tailored to the organization, and it has to be tailored to the role. Because otherwise, people that read it go, oh, well, this is just another CTO or another VP of marketing. They're not asking me any really intelligent questions about me or my role. So these take quite a while to put together. And you may be wondering what we look for in character, for example. There are 5 things that we look for in character. The first one is integrity. We all get why we're looking for people with integrity. The 5th one is resiliency. And resiliency is important in an Industry 4.0 world. I'd say it's important all the time. But resiliency for us is the ability to take a hit, fall down, get back up, and keep going. Because when you're hiring an executive, we're living in really interesting times because life changes, as Ron said. Knowledge, it has the life expectancy of a banana. So what is hot today is not tomorrow. You need to be able to have people that are going to reinvent themselves and reinvent the organization over and over and over. And when they get it wrong, they go, geez, what did we do wrong? Let's not do that again, and go out and do the next one. The last piece that we prepare, remember, we haven't even talked to anybody yet. We're still in this preparation mode. This takes about a week to 2 weeks, depending on how you do it. We're writing all the reference questions. Because I don't know how many people get to the end of an interview process, and then they go, well, what should we ask them for references? Well, if you took the time to write the questions that you wanted to ask them to get the information to decide if they were actually truly competent and someone you should hire, then the reference check questions are almost identical. When you go out to talk to their references and you talk about empathy, as an example. And the candidate says, oh yeah, I'm very empathetic. And they give you all kinds of examples. I'm very empathetic. Well, when you go out to talk to their references, you have to have the same question so that their reference gives you the similar information. For example, I'll give you a better example. You ever ask someone in an interview, what's your top accomplishment? How many people have ever done that? What's your best accomplishment? That's a pretty common question. Have you ever then asked the reference what that person's best accomplishment was? And it was nowhere near what they talked about. Not a clue. That's why you do this. These questions and answers have to line up. I get to do this part? So this is really easy. First one, package the cause. Position profile, confidential brief, have them line up. The guide development, interview guide, and reference check guide. And the first time you do one of these things, it may take you a week or 2. By the time you've done your 3rd, you're breezing through this in a half a day to a day. So I encourage you to try it. And what you get out of stage 2 is you essentially get the hiring blueprint. You know what type of person you're going after. You know what organizations they're in. But you also know the strengths and weaknesses, because you've done a skills gap analysis of all the people that this person is going to be working with. And probably, most importantly, everyone inside the organization that's going to play any part in the interview process knows what they're doing including the questions they're going to be asking and what they have to talk about in terms of putting their best foot forward. So the hiring blueprint spells all that out before you ever go out and talk to anybody. This is the fun part. This is the part I live for. You know, I really live for this. Talent search. So how do you find people who aren't looking? Well, the first thing you do is you do some research, and this is what we use for research. And there's all kinds of places you can go to find skill sets, right? Well, how do you find the actual people that have the skills that can do what you want to do? Because sometimes you can get that on LinkedIn and some other places, and sometimes you just can't.
Okay,
there's all kinds of...
I'm just going to interject. David keeps saying people that aren't looking. He means people, you'll find some people that are not actively looking for a job, but you'll also find people when you're going to call them or approach them that have it on the back burner. They're employed, they're happy where they are, but they are looking for different opportunities. So don't screen those people out.
No, don't screen anybody out. I mean, people, and I think Rayanne and Jim are going to talk about this afternoon. We talk about active candidates and passive candidates in North America. No. Forget about active, forget about passive. They're all just prospects. They're just prospects. They're not candidates, they're just prospects. It doesn't matter whether someone's employed or unemployed. If they've got the skill set, the circumstances may be irrelevant as to why you have that window in time to approach them and recruit them. So this is what we do. We go to social media. Now, we use Zoom Info a lot, but you don't get a lot of information off Zoom Info. You only get what the candidates want you to get off LinkedIn. So when we want to really understand who somebody is, you know, their real personality, what gets them excited, we go and check out their social media, because almost everybody is either been talked about on social media or they've been in the press. So we go and read that information ahead of actually talking to these people.
By doing that also, this gives you a chance to get to know the person in another way. And when it comes down to negotiating, if you select this candidate, then you have a lot more knowledge about them and what their wants are, what their needs are, what their habits are, what they like to do, and it really helps in the relationship building during the process.
And it can help you close a deal. I'm going to put the screen in a second. About 15 years ago, I needed to recruit a CEO out of a company, and he just kept saying no. I finally got him out for the interview or the business meeting, and he even came back and said no after that, and they really, really wanted him. And I leaned into the phone that morning, and I said, your son Hugh would have a better chance of making the NHL, hockey, would have a better chance of being picked up and making the NHL if you were living in a city like Chicago instead of Ottawa at the time. All of a sudden, money didn't matter. It was irrelevant, because I appealed to something that was of more relevance to him than the actual cash. He took the job.
Now
and moved to Chicago.
Notice David said after he had contacted him several times, because he doesn't want to appear like a stalker now either. You don't want that coming across.
Okay, we're not going to talk about those stories. Okay, how do we do this? Well, we're going to talk about, we've done the research, and let's say, a recent example. We're hiring a VP of marketing in Ottawa, where we actually live, and it's very unusual for us to actually do something in our own town. But we're hiring a VP of marketing for this company. We've found 151 individuals in Ottawa and the area, and their sub-office in Dallas. There's 151 people. We did all the research, our researchers do the research, we did all the research and we brought it down to 12. Of the 12, we called 7. That's important. So of those 12, none of them had resumes, none of them were looking. I called the 7 people. And the first phone call happens like this. And the reason we do it on the phone is because we're not biased. I don't know what you look like. I don't know how old you are, how tall you are. You could be even taller than me, for example. I don't care what nationality you are, none of it. Completely unbiased. I'm just interested in your skill set and how you think. So I pick up the phone and I say, hi, you don't know me, but, I was reading about your new invention and I wanted to have a quick conversation with you. Is this a bad time? And I say, is this a bad time? Not is this a good time? Is this a bad time? Because most people say, is this a good time? And people say, no. So I say, is this a bad 10? People say, no. Oh, good. It's a little thing, right? And they laugh just like that because I got them. And I said, listen, I'm working on this project, and I want to give you a little bit more information. And they'll say, well, can you tell me about it? And I go, no. No, I'm horrible on the phone. I would never do it justice, but I can send you a position profile. Oh, what's that? Well, it's a document, it's 3 to 5 pages. It'll take you about 5 minutes. When you've got quiet time, you can sit down and read this, and then you can say to yourself, yeah, this guy's right, or oh my God, is this guy crazy? And you can make your own decision. That's all I want to do, so give me your email address. So they give me their email address. I say, thank you very much. I'll call back in a couple of days, and I hang up, and I send them this document. Then what happens? Well, I call back, right? I'm a stalker. On the second call, I phone back and I say, so what did you think? Oh, I really like this. This really sounds good. Oh, well, tell me why you say that. And I take a lot of notes. And they said, do you want to have an interview? I go, no. No, what I want to do is, we don't know each other. So I'm going to send you a confidential candidate brief. Because you probably don't have a resume either. Because I know that, it's about as fun as pulling teeth, putting together a resume. So I don't want you to go to that trouble. It's going to take you days, weeks, maybe months before you get back to me. I'm going to send you this document. It's a Word document, the confidential candidate brief. You're going to read it, and you answer like 10 questions. There's 24, but there's 10 of them that really matter. Just answer the 10 questions and fire it back to me. Okay. So away it goes. And they send it back to me. And after they send it back to me, I call them up, and I say, I've read it now, right? So I now know that not only are they qualified for the job, but they're interested. Because some people that are interested would only put down a line or two. I always tell people it's going to take about 15 or 20 minutes to do this. I don't know how much time some people spend, but it's a lot more. I've gotten these documents back where they're 12 pages, like Nick's. And then I say, I only want to ask you one question. Can you roll me back to when you're getting out of college and university and take me through your life? Most recruiters don't do that. They want to ask you specific technical questions. Take me through your life. And we just sit and we listen. And when they're finished, if we think that they have strong leadership skills, and we can tell by the way they answer the questions and talk about why they moved from one organization to another, then we ask them, want to have a conversation? And they say, sure. When we're going to do that? I said, I'm going to tell you shortly. Romania's got talent, right?
Right. So at this point, you have the interest of the candidate, and they're enthusiastic because they've read the documentation with it, and they know it's a serious opportunity that's coming down the pipe. So with this, they audition. They end up being auditioning for us as opposed to us always going after them and them trying to interview them. So it kind of turns the table and the dynamics, and it makes the process a lot easier because there's a lot of steps after this that they're going to go through, that they're going to be vetted through to be able to fill this position. And when Dave said before that he asked them to tell him about tell me about your life, tell me how after you finished school, what you did, this question comes back several times throughout the interviewing process. And the reason, he's going to mention it quickly as we go through the steps, but the reason we do this is we're looking for inconsistencies. A person that is being honest and open about their experience will always have the same story. And it won't change through time, it's always the same thing. So we're listening for these kind of cues throughout the entire interview process.
So it is auditioning. And there's no change in this. It's just like when Nadia Comaneci went to the Olympics. She didn't show up, in front of a bunch of coaches one day and say, hey, I can really swing on these bars. Send me to the Olympics. No, she had to audition and practice. So what's your output? Your output at the end of this step, or at stage 3 in these steps, is you have a list of prospects who are now candidates. They're tier 1 talent, and the prospects have become candidates. The hunted have become the hunters. They're now chasing us. It's a whole different ball game. Now you don't sit back, but you now get to have the luxury of assessing them, and we're going to take you through that now.
At this point, you really are getting to know these people, so you really have a clear image of who they are. The next steps with the interviewing process is just going to go deeper and deeper into that.
So, 4 steps, 7 through 10. You're going to do the process assessment, client preparation, the interviews, and the verification. So, talent assessment. What do we do? Have you ever noticed when you bring people in for an interview, they may have been coached by somebody? Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second. But the first thing we do with our client is we want to prepare them. So we actually sit down and we do what's called a benchmark interview. So we go out, we pick somebody from that, usually from that group that we've just talked about. We'll pick them, we'll bring them in, and we'll interview them. It's a benchmark interview. And in that benchmark interview, we're going to make sure that we understood the process completely, we understood the project completely well, and we're going to make sure that we're getting the fit. And this person that we interview as a benchmark may go forward in the process, or they may not. 9 times out of 10, they go forward.
On an aside note, you don't tell the person that they are the benchmark interview.
Yeah, okay, that good point. It's art and science, and the art was what we just talked about. The science is using the tools that our hosts today, if you want to know more information, you can talk to them about. You have to make sure that when you're using tools, you use tools like Great People Inside that can be adjusted to your culture and your organization. You can use almost any tool, but if you're looking for a set of tools that's going to conform to discovering what the best fit is for your organization, Great People Inside does a job like none other.
And that's the beauty about this tool, because you can customize it for your particular organization, for your particular positions. So
talent assessment. It's yours.
Yep. Client preparation.
I was told.
Just a second. David, here, on your right. 5 minutes reminder, because we are running over time. Thank you.
Okay, so client preparation. Often the candidates, you'll see they have coaches, and they go before their interviews, and they get prepared for interviews using coaches. Well, we coach our clients. So every step of the way, we meet with them. At every time there's a process that goes through, and we explain to them in detail what we're looking for. We give them feedback on their behavior, their questions, and we continue through the whole process that way. Very important. We also do this with people who are going to be, anybody who's going to be in contact with that candidate. It could be the secretary, it could be the receptionist, it could be a driver that's picking them up at the airport, that they have to know that we are courting this person now, and they're very important, and how to be able to speak with them properly.
So that VP of marketing search we talked about, we took it from 151 down to 12, down to 5. By the time they actually got to do interviews, because this is the funnel, we knew that they'd read the professional profile, they'd gone through the confidential candidate brief, they'd had the initial phone screen, and now they were getting interviewed by ourselves. So 2 recruiters interview every candidate all the time. 1 asks questions, 1 take notes.
The next interview is with the search chair and the lead recruiter. We're looking for the fit, interpersonal skills, and we really get deep into the confidential candidate brief and previous success and failures. Now we're looking for discrepancies.
The hiring manager, the next interview is actually with the hiring manager. So we get the candidates to interview with the hiring manager before the search committee, because we want to know what the hiring manager thinks. We don't want the search committee to know what they think. I got my 5 minutes there. We don't want the search committee to know what the hiring manager thinks. And there's a reason for that.
The next interview is with the search committee, but without the hiring manager, because we don't want the hiring manager to be able to influence in any way the feedback that we're getting from that search committee. Usually the hiring manager is somebody who is senior to them, and they'll be the decision makers, but we want to have an honest feedback from this search committee.
And the last interview, and it usually comes down to 1 candidate, sometimes 2, they come in and they present to the entire search committee, this is my 100-day plan. This is what I understand the job to be. This is what I'm going to do at this time and this time and this time. So that when we're finished this and we hire them, we have a plan already in hand. And this is what happens when somebody applies for a job and they lie and they get the job.
You get caught in the middle.
And if you want more information on how to find liars and do references, that's available off our website.
The other thing we put in is we also use emotional intelligence testing, and we usually use this just to use it as a validity tool to back up the references. You know, when you go for a reference, people give out their references, people that they know they're going to get positive references from. Well, when you do the EI testing with it, then you'll see if it matches.
And at the end of the process, at the end of this stage, you have a candidate that you know can do the job, they want the job, they've already met all the other executives, they've all agreed on what the plan is, and they just go. And deal making. Here's what you have to remember about deal making, okay? The golden rule is, gold by itself doesn't matter. You have to connect with them emotionally. It's not me now. I'm going to skip that one. What you have at the end of this is you have a very excited person who wants to join your team. Onboarding. When you write the job description, when you do the position profile, what you're trying to do, or what you're doing at the front end is deciding what the objectives are and the milestones that we want the people to meet. This all gets put in the final draft so that they understand how they're going to get paid, why they're going to get rewarded, and the KPIs are all there. And at the final end?
Right, at the end, we put together a document, or we put together an entire process. Once the person is hired, the candidate is hired, and is onboarded. During that onboarding, we have another meeting with the search committee, the search chair, everybody who was involved, and we put together a document going through the entire process again. They keep this document, they have all the steps in it, everything that they've used throughout the process, so that they can duplicate this if they want to. They can ask us questions, they can call us back, but this is what we leave them with.
And in the end, what you have is a candidate who joins your organization who's now unrecruitable. We've never had a candidate that we've placed be recruited out. It's impossible.
So on the back of your flyers, you have two books, two of our books that we've put together. If you're interested in having the in-depth knowledge of the steps, they're described inside these books, and you can get them if you like.
Thank you very much. Morimoto. Here we go.